Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming back to the Love and Betrayal channel. Today, I have a new and quite interesting story to share with you. A house is not a home. I stood silently at the kitchen sink, scrubbing the dinner plates mechanically. The silence in the house had become deafening lately. What once was filled with laughter, chatter, and the warmth of family now felt as cold and empty as a deserted shell. Behind me, my husband, Mark, flipped through channels aimlessly, never settling on one. The TV had become background noise, masking our lack of conversation. Upstairs, the kids, Ava and Noah, shut away in their rooms, each lost in their own world, escaping into screens and headphones to avoid the tension that hung thickly in every corner of our home. This wasn't the life I envisioned when Mark and I exchanged vows 15 years ago. Back then, everything seemed possible, and we were two dreamers who believed our love could withstand anything life threw at us. And it did until it didn't. It started slowly, almost imperceptibly, a missed conversation here, a forgotten anniversary there. Then, the arguments came, becoming more frequent, more intense. Our home transformed into a battleground of unspoken resentments and hurtful silence. "Hey," Mark's voice broke my wandering thoughts. "We need milk." "Okay," I replied without turning around. We both knew he wasn't really talking about milk. He paused for a moment, and I felt the hesitation before he spoke again. "I've got another trip next week, Chicago this time." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. Okay. Trips were Mark's way of escaping our crumbling marriage, but I didn't blame him, not entirely. Perhaps distance was all that could keep us together now. The doorbell rang, startling us both out of our awkward exchange. I quickly dried my hands, grateful for the distraction. At the door stood Mrs. Alvarez, our neighbor, holding something small and wriggling in a bundle of blankets. "Hi, Elizabeth," she greeted warmly, but her smile held a hint of urgency. "I found this little guy wandering by your yard. He looks lost, poor thing." As she gently unfolded the blankets, a pair of soulful brown eyes looked up at me, instantly melting the ice that had formed around my heart. A puppy, a scruffy, golden-furred puppy with ears slightly too big for his tiny frame, stared back, wagging his tail timidly. "He's adorable," I murmured, feeling a smile tug at my lips for the first time in weeks. "I'd keep him, but my cats wouldn't appreciate a visitor." Mrs. Alvarez chuckled softly. Just then Ava appeared, eyes wide with surprise and wonder. "Mom, can we keep him?" "Honey, we can't just..." "Please," Ava pleaded, her voice trembling with hope. Noah joined soon after, equally captivated by the furry stranger. Mark stood behind me now, his presence hesitant but curious. He knelt down slowly, extending a cautious hand toward the puppy. The puppy sniffed Mark's fingers before leaning into his touch, licking his palm enthusiastically. Something shifted subtly in Mark's expression, something softer, more open. "Maybe," Mark glanced at me, our eyes meeting meaningfully for the first time in ages. "Maybe he needs us as much as we need him." In that moment, with our family gathered at the threshold, a decision silently made itself clear. "All right," I finally relented, feeling warmth flood back into the house. "I suppose he can stay." And just like that, the little puppy stepped into our fractured lives, unaware he was about to heal a family he had only just met. The puppy, now officially named Bailey by popular family vote, quickly became the center of attention in our household. It was surprising how effortlessly he bridged the gaps that had been widening between us. The energy he brought into the home was infectious, and I found myself smiling more each day, something that had felt nearly impossible just weeks ago. From the very first night, Bailey seemed to know exactly who needed him most. Ava, who had recently become withdrawn and sullen, allowed Bailey to curl up next to her in bed, something she'd never permitted anyone, not even me, to do since hitting her teenage years. Each morning, I'd find Bailey nestled beside Ava, her arms protectively cradling his tiny form. It warmed my heart to see my daughter finally open herself up again. Noah, who typically spent his afternoons locked away playing video games, started taking Bailey on walks around the neighborhood after school. He'd initially resisted, complaining about the extra responsibility. Yet within days, he'd begun enjoying the time outdoors, often returning with flushed cheeks and a smile. Mark was slower to come around, but even he wasn't immune to Bailey's charm. Initially hesitant, he gradually allowed Bailey into his workspace at home. On one occasion, I quietly peeked into Mark's office to see Bailey snoozing comfortably on his lap, while Mark absent-mindedly scratched behind his ears, visibly calmer and less stressed than I'd seen him in months. Bailey's presence seemed to subtly change our routines as well. Dinner, once a tense affair filled with uncomfortable silence, now included stories of Bailey's latest antics. Noah laughed, describing how Bailey chased his own tail until he fell over, while Ava excitedly recounted Bailey's successful attempts at learning new tricks. Even Mark joined in occasionally, softly chuckling as he narrated how Bailey had managed to steal a sandwich off his desk unnoticed. I cherish these moments, small but significant signs that perhaps our fractured bonds weren't beyond repair. One afternoon, while preparing dinner, I heard a soft yelp from the backyard. Dropping the knife, I hurried out, fearing Bailey had hurt himself. Instead, I found him standing protectively in front of Ava, barking fiercely at a snake that had slithered near her feet. Ava stood frozen in shock, her face pale. Without hesitation, I grabbed a nearby garden tool and swiftly ushered the snake away from my daughter and our brave pint-sized protector. Kneeling, I pulled Ava into a tight embrace. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" I whispered urgently. She nodded shakily, tears welling in her eyes. "Bailey saved me, Mom." Bailey wagged his tail, proudly standing by our side, as if fully aware of his heroic deed. Ava gently hugged him, burying her face into his soft fur. That evening, something shifted further in our household. Mark, deeply moved by the day's events, openly praised Bailey at the dinner table, his voice filled with gratitude and genuine affection. It was the most sincere I'd seen him in a long time. "I didn't realize how much we needed him until today," Mark admitted softly, glancing at me with an openness that hadn't been present for months. I felt a flutter of hope in my chest, seeing the husband I'd once known slowly reappear from beneath layers of detachment and stress. After dinner, Ava and Noah insisted we have a family movie night, something we hadn't done in ages. Together, we settled onto the sofa, Bailey claiming a prime spot nestled between Mark and me. As we watched the film, I found my hand subtly brushing against Mark's. After a hesitant moment, his fingers gently intertwined with mine, offering a silent apology for everything that had passed between us. In that simple, quiet gesture, I sensed a new beginning. Maybe not a perfect fix, but at least the first small steps towards healing our home. As Bailey slept soundly between us, I knew without a doubt that our decision to welcome this furry, mischievous pup into our lives was exactly what we needed to remind us of the love we'd nearly lost. With Bailey around, our household started to feel warmer, gentler, and more forgiving. Each day brought subtle yet profound changes that seemed to pull us closer together. Bailey wasn't just a pet. He had become the glue holding us together, reminding us daily of what truly mattered. One weekend morning, I woke up early to find Mark already in the kitchen, making pancakes, something he hadn't done in years. The aroma of fresh batter and maple syrup filled the air, mingling with the sound of Ava's laughter from the living room as Bailey playfully tugged at her socks. "Good morning," Mark greeted warmly, pouring coffee into my favorite mug. "Thought we could all use a special breakfast today." "Thank you," I replied softly, touched by his thoughtful gesture. My heart swelled as I watched him expertly flip pancakes onto a growing stack. For a moment, the tension that had clouded our relationship seemed entirely forgotten. After breakfast, Mark surprised us further by suggesting a family hike, another activity we'd long abandoned. Noah groaned initially, protesting about missing his video game session, but Bailey's enthusiastic tail wagging quickly won him over. The hike was a revelation. Surrounded by nature, breathing in fresh air, and listening to the cheerful chirps of birds, our conversations flowed effortlessly. Mark and I walked side by side, reminiscing about old times, sharing dreams and fears we'd kept bottled up far too long. Meanwhile, Ava and Noah raced ahead, Bailey joyfully trotting between them. Halfway up the trail, we paused at a scenic overlook. Bailey, eager to explore every scent in sight, bounded energetically, tugging at his leash. Mark and I stood silently for a moment, taking in the breathtaking view before he turned toward me. "I've missed this," he admitted quietly, his voice tinged with regret and sincerity. "I've missed us." I swallowed back tears, nodding. "Me too." In that vulnerable exchange, it felt as though the invisible walls we'd built around ourselves finally began to crumble. A sudden shout from Noah interrupted the moment. Bailey had slipped free from his leash, dashing after a butterfly down a steep slope. Ava and Noah panicked, calling his name urgently. Without hesitation, Mark sprang into action, carefully navigating the slope to rescue our furry companion. My heart raced as I watched, anxiously clutching Ava's trembling hand. Within minutes, Mark emerged triumphantly, Bailey safely cradled in his arms. Relief washed over us, quickly replaced by laughter at the sight of our mischievous dog, his expression one of pure innocence. That was close. Mark chuckled breathlessly, gently placing Bailey back on the ground. You little troublemaker. Bailey wagged his tail unapologetically, happily returning to Ava and Noah's eager embraces. That evening, after dinner, Mark joined me in our room. Quietly, he sat on the edge of the bed, taking my hand into his. His eyes searched mine, reflecting years of shared experiences and memories. I want us to find our way back, he began sincerely. I know it won't be easy, but I believe we can do it. A single tear escaped down my cheek as I squeezed his hand gently. I want that too, Mark, more than anything. He leaned forward, pressing a tender kiss to my forehead, a gesture filled with forgiveness, healing, and hope. Outside our door, Ava and Noah's laughter echoed down the hallway, accompanied by the sound of Bailey's playful barking. For the first time in what felt like forever, our home truly felt whole again, not because our problems had disappeared overnight, but because we had decided to face them together, strengthened by the bonds Bailey had helped us mend. Time moved steadily forward, each passing day marking deeper healing and stronger connections within our family, all gently guided by Bailey's joyful spirit. Our furry companion had seamlessly woven himself into the fabric of our lives, reminding us to cherish each moment and each other. One crisp autumn afternoon, as golden leaves danced in the gentle breeze, we sat together in the backyard, watching Ava and Noah play fetch with Bailey. The children's laughter filled the air, mingling effortlessly with Bailey's exuberant barking as he chased after a brightly colored ball. Mark and I watched from the porch swing, our fingers intertwined naturally now, a simple act that once seemed lost forever. My head rested comfortably on his shoulder, savoring this precious, peaceful moment. Can you believe how much has changed? Mark asked softly, his voice filled with gratitude. Honestly, sometimes it feels like a dream, I whispered back, smiling gently. Bailey truly was the missing piece we needed. He squeezed my hand gently. You know, it's funny, I thought we were adopting him, but it turns out he adopted us. I laughed softly, nodding in agreement. Our little hero had not only found a home, but had rebuilt one. That evening, as we prepared dinner together, Mark shared an idea he'd been considering. What if we took Bailey to visit the nursing home down the road? I've heard pet visits can really help the residents there. Surprised, yet delighted, I quickly agreed. That's a wonderful idea. I'm sure Bailey would love it, and it would mean so much to them. The following weekend, we dressed Bailey in a bright blue bandana and headed to the nursing home. The residents' eyes lit up immediately upon seeing our furry friend, and Bailey seemed to instinctively know exactly how to interact, approaching each person gently, offering comfort and companionship. An elderly woman named Marhis took a special liking to Bailey, her frail hand softly stroking his fur as tears filled her eyes. You remind me of my dear old Charlie, she whispered nostalgically. Oh, how I've missed him. Watching Bailey bring joy and solace to others, Mark and I exchanged knowing smiles, hearts warmed by the simple yet profound impact our little dog had. Inspired by the success of the visit, we decided to make it a weekly family tradition, strengthening not only our bond as a family, but our ties to the broader community as well. Weeks turned into months, and soon the holiday season was upon us. Our home decorated cheerfully with twinkling lights, colorful ornaments, and festive warmth. Bailey's excitement matched ours, fascinated by the sparkling decorations and the irresistible scent of freshly baked cookies. On Christmas Eve, after opening presents and sharing heartfelt laughter, we gathered around the fireplace, each reflecting on the past year. Ava hugged Bailey tightly, affectionately whispering, "You're the best gift we could ever ask for." Noah nodded, reaching out to pet Bailey gently. "Thanks for choosing us, buddy." I glanced at Mark, eyes glistening with emotion, knowing we both felt profound gratitude for how far we'd come. Mark raised his glass in a gentle toast. "To Bailey," he announced warmly, "the smallest member of our family who taught us the greatest lessons about love and healing." "To Bailey," we all echoed, hearts united, voices filled with genuine affection. Bailey looked around the room, eyes bright, tail wagging energetically, unaware of just how deeply he'd touched our lives. As the evening quieted down, Mark and I sat together in the glow of the fire, our hearts lighter than they'd been in years. Bailey, content and sleepy, curled up at our feet, a quiet guardian of our newfound happiness. This feels like a new chapter," I said softly, leaning into Mark's comforting embrace. He kissed my forehead tenderly. "Yes, and it's one we'll write together." In that gentle moment, enveloped in warmth and peace, I knew we had truly healed, not because everything was perfect, but because we had chosen to face life's imperfections together, one loving step at a time, guided by a small dog with a very big heart. Bailey continued to enrich our lives, his presence a constant reminder of resilience, joy, and unconditional love. Our family had grown closer than ever, strengthened by the simple yet profound lessons Bailey taught us each day. Spring arrived, painting our neighborhood with vibrant colors and renewed energy. Bailey eagerly explored the blossoming garden, sniffing every flower, wagging his tail enthusiastically as butterflies flitted around him. His playful curiosity seemed boundless, infectious enough to draw us into his joyful world. Mark and I decided it was time to embark on a new adventure, our first family vacation in years. After much consideration, we settled on a quaint cabin near a serene lake, the perfect retreat for relaxation, reflection, and family bonding. As we packed our bags and loaded the car, Bailey sensed the excitement, bouncing eagerly, his expressive eyes shining with anticipation. Ava and Noah giggled at his enthusiasm, their laughter music to my ears. The drive was filled with joyful chatter, singing along to favorite songs, and Bailey's occasional playful bark as he observed the passing scenery. The cabin was everything we had hoped for, a peaceful escape surrounded by breathtaking natural beauty. On our first morning, we took a leisurely walk along the lake's edge, Bailey bounding happily ahead, his tail wagging nonstop. Mark slipped his arm around my shoulders, drawing me closer. "This was a good idea," he murmured contentedly. "It feels like a fresh start," I agreed softly, leaning into his warmth. Ava and Noah, accompanied by Bailey, ventured closer to the water, skipping stones and playfully splashing. Their carefree laughter echoed across the lake, filling our hearts with gratitude for these precious moments. Later, as we sat around the fire pit roasting marshmallows, Ava shared an idea that surprised us all. "Mom, Dad, I've been thinking maybe we could foster animals. Bailey's made such a huge difference in our lives. Maybe we can help other animals who need families, even if it's temporary." Mark and I exchanged glances, both deeply moved by our daughter's compassion and insight. Noah nodded eagerly, adding his support. "Yeah, Bailey would love having friends around, too." Bailey looked up from his spot near my feet, seemingly aware he was the topic of discussion. His gentle gaze confirmed our decision almost immediately. "That's a wonderful idea," Mark said, smiling proudly at Ava. "We'll look into it as soon as we get home." Our vacation flew by in a blur of hiking, swimming, exploring, and sharing meaningful conversations under starry skies. On our final night, Mark and I stayed awake long after the kids had fallen asleep, gazing at the stars, while Bailey curled peacefully at our feet. "It's amazing how much one little dog has changed us," Mark mused quietly. "We've come so far because of him." I squeezed his hand gently. Bailey reminded us of what's important: family, love, forgiveness, and second chances. He's truly been our miracle. Returning home, our hearts felt lighter, inspired by Ava's thoughtful suggestion. Within weeks, our home welcomed its first foster, a timid older dog named Sadie, who quickly blossomed under Bailey's nurturing guidance. Soon, others followed, each animal leaving a unique imprint on our family. Months passed, and our home transformed into a haven of warmth, laughter, and hope. Not just for us, but for countless animals seeking a second chance. Bailey took his role seriously, lovingly welcoming each newcomer and patiently teaching them trust and joy. One evening, as we watched Bailey gently interact with the newest foster puppy, Mark pulled me into a tight embrace. "I never imagined life could be this full again," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I smiled softly, leaning against his shoulder. "Neither did I. Bailey didn't just save our family, he showed us a purpose beyond ourselves." We stood quietly for a moment, soaking in the happiness and fulfillment that filled our home. Bailey glanced up as if sensing our thoughts, wagging his tail gently before returning his attention to his playful protege. This journey hadn't been easy, but every moment was worthwhile. We'd learned to embrace life's uncertainties, face our fears, and cherish every small, meaningful moment. Thanks to Bailey, our family had found a new rhythm, one filled with love, compassion, and a shared commitment to making a difference. And as we watched him tenderly care for each new foster, it became clear that the journey Bailey began would continue for years, touching countless hearts along the way. The seasons shifted again, bringing with them not just new weather, but a deepening sense of purpose in our home. Bailey, now fully grown and more composed, had become not just a pet, but a guide, a quiet teacher, and a steadfast friend to us all. One rainy afternoon, while folding laundry, I noticed Noah standing by the window, his hand resting gently on Bailey's head. The two stared outside, the boy's expression pensive. "Everything all right, honey?" I asked, setting down a stack of towels. Noah turned slowly. "Yeah, I was just thinking about school. Things are kind of hard lately, but Bailey, he always makes me feel better." Bailey looked up at Noah with his usual steady gaze, as if to say, "I've got you." It struck me in that moment how much emotional weight this dog carried. He had become a silent comforter for our children, someone they could trust when words felt too heavy. And somehow, he always knew who needed him most. Later that week, Mark came home looking more exhausted than usual. Work had been overwhelming, deadlines and expectations piling up. He barely spoke during dinner, his shoulders hunched under invisible burdens. After we cleaned up, I found him in the den, staring blankly at his laptop. Bailey lay beside him, one paw resting gently on Mark's foot, tail softly swaying. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked gently. Mark sighed. "I don't even know where to start, but Bailey, he's helping just by being here." I sat beside them, placing a hand on Mark's back. "You don't always have to carry everything alone." He leaned into my touch, then reached down to stroke Bailey's fur. "I know, I think I just forgot how to lean on someone for a while." Moments like these reminded me that healing was never linear. It came in ripples, in quiet glances, and soft paws on tired feet. Bailey's love didn't shout. It whispered, patient and persistent. Over the next few months, we continued fostering animals. Ava grew especially close to a shy black lab named Luna. Watching her care for Luna with such tenderness, I saw glimpses of the strong, empathetic young woman she was becoming. One night, after tucking Ava into bed, she stopped me at the door. "Mom." "Yes, sweetheart?" "Do you think Bailey knows how much he means to us?" I smiled, walking back to sit at the edge of her bed. "I think he knows, maybe not in words, but in the way we love him. He feels that." Ava hugged her pillow, her voice soft. "He saved us." Tears welled up in my eyes. Yes, he did. As Bailey lay in the hallway outside the bedrooms, his eyes closed but ears perked, I imagined he could hear every word, holding them close in his loyal heart. One Saturday, we were invited to speak at a local community event about fostering rescue animals. Mark was nervous about speaking publicly, but Bailey's presence beside him gave him quiet confidence. He shared our story honestly, our struggles, the silence that once plagued our home, and how a little dog changed everything. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Afterward, several families approached us, expressing their desire to adopt or foster. A young boy clutched his mother's hand tightly and whispered, "I want a Bailey too." That moment reminded us that stories have power, especially when they are real, raw, and hopeful. Bailey, sitting proudly by our side, seemed to understand the impact he had made. His eyes scanned the crowd with calm awareness, his posture dignified but relaxed. That night, as we sat on the porch under a sky full of stars, Bailey resting between our feet, Mark turned to me with a peaceful smile. "I think we've finally found our purpose." I nodded, watching the gentle rise and fall of Bailey's chest, and he led us to it. Bailey stirred, lifting his head to nuzzle against my knee. I stroked his fur, my heart full. It was true. We hadn't just rescued him. He had rescued us in every way that mattered. And the life we were building, paw print by paw print, was more beautiful than we had ever imagined. The weeks following the community event brought an unexpected shift in our lives. Our story, Bailey's story, had quietly spread through town. Soon, neighbors, friends, and even strangers began reaching out to us, sharing their own experiences, asking for guidance on fostering, and thanking us for inspiring them. It was humbling. We weren't extraordinary people. We had struggled, made mistakes, nearly broken apart, but we had opened our hearts to one small creature, and in return received more healing than we could have imagined. Bailey, as always, remained blissfully unaware of the role he played in this growing ripple of kindness. One rainy afternoon, a young woman named Tessa came to our door. Soaked and shivering, she cradled a trembling puppy wrapped in a towel. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. "I found him by the river." And I remembered your story. We welcomed her in without hesitation. Bailey immediately approached her with quiet gentleness, sniffing the puppy before licking its ear. It was his way of saying, "You're safe now." Over warm tea and blankets, Tessa shared her own story, a battle with anxiety, a recent breakup, and the overwhelming loneliness she couldn't shake. The puppy, she said, had wandered into her path like a sign. I didn't think I could take care of anything, not even myself, but when he looked at me, I felt needed. Her words echoed my own thoughts from what felt like a lifetime ago. Over the next few days, we helped Tessa get proper care for the pup, whom she eventually named River, and guided her through the first steps of adoption. She visited often, always with River tucked in her arms, and Bailey walking proudly by her side, like a wise older brother. Each time she left, she looked a little lighter, a little more whole. Seeing this transformation reminded me that Bailey's magic wasn't just reserved for us. He had become a healer, a quiet ambassador of second chances. His heart kept giving over and over again. That month, our home welcomed 3 more foster animals, a one-eyed tabby cat named Pickles, a senior beagle named Birdie, and a timid bunny Ava, instantly adored. Bailey adjusted to each one with grace, as if understanding their unique needs and boundaries. He gave space when needed, warmth when wanted, and always, always patience. One evening, I found him lying beside Birdie, their bodies pressed close. Birdie had been shaken from a thunderstorm, his age making him more sensitive to noise. Bailey simply rested there, steady and unafraid, until Birdie calmed. Mark joined me in the doorway, watching the scene unfold. "You know," he said, "if Bailey were human, I think he'd be a therapist, or maybe a monk." I laughed quietly. He's definitely wiser than most people I know. We both stood there for a while, letting the peace of the moment soak in. That weekend, we organized our first neighborhood foster meetup. Families came with their adopted or fostered pets, children played together, and stories flowed freely, tales of rescue, recovery, and the unconditional love animals bring. It wasn't just an event. It felt like a celebration of something bigger than all of us. Bailey, wearing his signature blue bandana, sat like a king in the center of it all. Kids ran up to hug him, adults knelt to pet him, and he accepted it all with calm grace. He was home, not just with us, but in the hearts of an entire community. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across the yard, Ava pulled me aside. "Mom," she said softly, "I think Bailey knows he's special now. I think he feels it." I looked at her, then at Bailey surrounded by people he'd unknowingly helped. He met my eyes across the crowd, tail wagging once, before he returned to a little girl tugging his leash. "Yes," I said, "I think he knows." And in that moment, I understood something deeper. Healing isn't a destination, it's a journey. And sometimes the smallest heart leads the biggest way. Years passed and Bailey aged gracefully, his golden fur now sprinkled with silver, his eyes softer but still full of knowing. He didn't run as fast as he used to, and he spent more time curled up in sunlit corners or nestled between us during quiet evenings. But his presence remained just as powerful, perhaps even more so. Life around us had continued to grow. Our fostering efforts blossomed into a small local organization. Run out of a renovated garage, we transformed into a safe space for animals in need. We called it Bailey's Haven. It wasn't just a shelter, it was a home for broken beginnings. And at the heart of it all was Bailey, our founding spirit, our silent leader. Ava, now in her late teens, took on a growing role helping match animals with loving families and mentoring younger volunteers. Noah, now more confident and outgoing, designed the website and managed outreach, proudly telling Bailey's story to anyone who visited. And Mark and I, we were stronger than ever. Not perfect, but solid. Our marriage had endured the worst, and with Bailey as our bridge, we found our way back. Then came the day we knew would eventually arrive. It was a soft, warm morning. Bailey didn't get up from his bed. He looked at us, calm, content, and at peace. The vet confirmed what our hearts already knew. Bailey's time was coming to an end. We brought his bed outside beneath his favorite tree in the backyard. Ava and Noah sat beside him, stroking his fur, whispering their love. Mark and I held his paws, our tears falling freely, grateful and aching at once. Bailey looked at each of us, his gaze steady, as if offering comfort, as if telling us, "You're ready now, I've done what I came to do." And then, with one last gentle breath, he was gone. The silence that followed was different than before. It wasn't heavy or hollow. It was sacred, a space filled with gratitude, memory, and the soft echo of paw prints. We buried him beneath the old tree where the sun always found its way through the leaves. Ava painted a wooden sign, "Here rests Bailey, who healed a home and opened hearts." In the weeks that followed, we grieved deeply, but we also celebrated. We shared stories, created photo albums, and launched an annual event called Bailey's Day, where families brought their pets to the haven, shared meals, and donated supplies for rescues. Bailey's impact didn't fade, it grew. His story continued to inspire others to open their homes, to offer second chances, and to believe that love, no matter how small the form, can heal even the deepest wounds. Sometimes on quiet evenings, I still feel him. When a breeze stirs the wind chimes, when the sunlight catches the edge of a paw print in the mud, when laughter rings out around the fire pit and a dog barks joyfully in the distance. He is everywhere, because the love of a dog like Bailey doesn't end. It simply takes root in every heart he touched. And for the rest of my life, I will carry his paw print with me,